Hello, and welcome to this eSchool News webcast. My name is Andrew Barber, Senior Contributing Editor, and I'll be acting as the moderator for today's presentation, which is sponsored by Kurzweil Education. It's titled, Beyond the 3 R's, a Tool to Teach 21st Century Learning. Before I introduce our speaker, Dan Herlihy, I want to take a few moments to highlight a couple of items. Today's event will be recorded, so in a couple of days, we'll send you an email, and that will contain a link to the recorded event. And you'll also, at that point, be able to download a PDF of the presentation. And secondly, please ask questions. Don't feel as if you have to wait until the end. At any time during the presentation, if you have a question, just type it into the Q&A box on your console and hit the Submit button. I hope we'll have maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the end when Dan can answer your questions. We also have a chat function, which can be launched via the brown group chat icon at the bottom of your screen. Use chat to talk among yourselves or to contact me or the eSchool News team with any technical issues or other concerns. But please don't use the chat to ask Dan questions. He probably won't have time to be monitoring those chats. If you have a question, use the Q&A panel instead. And with that out of the way, let me introduce today's speaker. Dan Herlihy is a private consultant who provides training and professional development to school systems. He has 30 years of experience in the education field, including wilderness programs for at-risk students and special education classrooms. He has also served as a computer resource specialist, a network administrator, and as an assistive technology resource specialist. He presents nationally on topics ranging from technology solutions for struggling students to accessible solutions for the iPad. In addition, he has written numerous books and articles on technology integration and has produced CDs of educational activities for educators and students. Welcome, Dan. It's an honor to have you here today.
Thank you, Andrew. If you take a look at my first slide here before I actually even get going, the photograph that's on the slide is one that I took a long time ago. I thought it would be apropos to kind of stick in here because 21st century learning is really just always a journey, an educational journey. And I actually took the picture when I was hiking the 2,650-mile long Pacific Crest Trail that I was hiking end to end. It's a trail that goes from the border of Canada to the border of Mexico. I did the whole thing end to end. And it kind of shaped my drive and my attitude towards technology and education. Once I finished something like that, it kind of reminded me of Tom Hanks at the end of Castaway when he's kind of looking down those four roads and kind of like, with the attitude of what direction do I want to go today, because after what I've just done, I can do anything. And so, as I go through the slides here, you'll probably get a little tinge of, my feelings of we can accomplish anything, and there's nothing we can't do if we just want to sit out and, go ahead. So, with that in mind, what is 21st century learning? Well, it's not really just using technology, because technology has been in education for, well over 30 years when we start to think about it. We had text-to-speech 30 years ago. We were using word processing 30 years ago. And it's not just one-to-one. We had it a long time ago, and they were called textbooks. Here, everybody gets one, And it's not reading a textbook on the screen. I don't think so. It's not simply doing what we did before, but doing it on a computer or doing it on a tablet. So when we look at 21st century learning, we really are looking at what are the skills requirements in today's working world, and actually not just today's, but tomorrow's working world. And they're really different than some of the skill requirements 30, 40, 50 years ago. When you think getting out of high school and then moving on to college and getting out of college 40 or 50 years ago, well, the jobs are really different then, and their skill requirements were different. You'd get out of college, you might be going into doing accounting or something, and it's doing it the same way they've been doing it year after year after year. Take out, here's the ledgers, here's how we do it. And now everything's different. The tools we use are different. The approach we use is different. And there's an expectation of tomorrow we're probably going to be doing it differently than today. You know, the requirements for today's working world aren't just to be able to do a task, but you need to be creative and you need to be good at critical thinking. You need to be able to look at what's my job and how can I make it better? What are some of the tools I need for my job? You need to be really good at problem solving as opposed to here's your task, you know, sit at the assembly line and, the next thing rolls up and just repeat doing this over and over again. And our students really need to be technology and media literate, especially that media literate, to be able to read and to be able to understand is this the truth? Is this something I want to look into, more? Where is the source coming from? Is there a slant to the source? Why is there? And to be really good using technology to search for and find the media that they're looking for. So another requirement or a skill requirement is to be able to communicate effectively and to communicate their ideas, to be able to get everything down and put together something that I can communicate to others. And they're dealing with a lot of information, so they really need to be information literate. Well, to be information literate, you need to be able to work with a lot of information. You need to go out there and bring it in. If you have difficulty with reading, if you have difficulty with the language, remember we're going to need tools that deal with that, and we'll see what those tools are later on. They'd also need to be able to collaborate across many environments. Most jobs now, you're working with people that are not in your office. Even my wife works at a desk at a university, and a lot of what she's doing is using tools to, instead of having to get out and drive down somewhere, everything is done online with programs like GoToMeeting and doing training and support and assisting people that are scattered all over the place, and also working well in teams. And so it's not just sitting down and divvying up the work and let's go to the encyclopedias and copy out something and bring it back and bring it to a document we're going to hand in. So the tools requirements addressing the needs of students. Well, the students need tools to allow them to have access to the curriculum, and this is where I spend a lot of my time. Tools for access, and access takes on a lot of different forms. Access for understanding, dealing with language barriers, access to vocabulary. Maybe I'm dyslexic and I need text-to-speech to read it to me. Maybe I'm reading below grade level. I understand the content clearly, but I need it to be read to me. Tools to help me organize my thoughts and tools to help me communicate, and especially tools to assist in the writing part of it. And then remember the co-connection part. Well, in the classroom, we're talking about not just student to student, but student and teacher. Teachers being able to monitor what the students are working on, tools that allow the student to work with shared documents, because these are the kinds of things that they're going to be working with once they get out into the working world, especially the collaborative documents. Technology can't just be, and this is the way it used to be, only computers on tables and software installed on a specific computer. Accessibility can't be a specialized tool. For example, we have this software installed for you on this computer in this specific room. It can't be limited and focused on one system, and it can't be limited to just in school or just in one specific room when it comes to classroom use. Accessibility, when we talk about accessibility, it can't take place in the classroom at a specific computer or device. It just doesn't work. Our students are too mobile. They're going, how do you work in a collaborative environment with fellow students when you have to be sitting at a specific computer or be in a specific room? Accessibility needs to be portable, and it always used to be only on a specific computer or a specific device. It needs to be transferable, meaning I need to be able to start something on one computer or device And then I need to be able to go home and continue working on it, on what I have at home. Then I need to be able to go to the library, maybe continue on with it. One of the things I talk about with teachers when we're working on iPads is you've got an iPad in your classroom, for example. You know what's equally important is knowing what does the student use at home. You know, and that sometimes that's never a thought. It's like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, you know, I know you've got iPads in your class. You've got a card. And you're going to use it every day. What's the student going to use when they go home and continue working on their projects? Well, you know, if 15% of the tablets out there are iPads, where are the Androids? Guess what? That's what they're going home to, or the Chromebooks or something else. And so, you know, needing to be knowledgeable about and using a lot of different devices. And what we're using needs to be able to be used in an open environment. And by that I mean it needs to be able to work. Can it work on the web? Can I use it on this device? Can I use it you know, on a computer as well as a tablet? And the same thing for hardware. Here's an example. I need to work with common file formats. So I'm going to go and bring in, someone sends me a PDF file. I'm going to, you know, open it up on a device, and I need it read aloud to me. Okay, so I need to be able to deal with what are all the common file formats that are out there in the world. You know, whether it's a Word document, a text file, image file, and you know, a PDF file. Maybe I need to go to Bookshare and get my books and things, but I want to be able to bring it in with whatever I've got, and then what do I need to have the technology do for me? The example here is I'm going to click a read button, and I'm going to have it read it aloud to me, highlighting word by word. So as we look at the evolution of technology, of where it was before, a computer on a table in a lab, special ed tools were on a computer down the hall on a specific computer that you had to go to. Well, it starts to evolve into using it as a separate accessory for drill and practice. You know, we went from paper to using technology for really just replacing the encyclopedia for online researching, substituting what was done on paper. And this is, remember, this is the evolution of when we first started using technology. This is all we're doing with it, just replacing what we were already doing on a piece of paper. We're using it for keyboarding, and portability really meant putting something on a cart, and typically putting a computer on a cart. Well, you know, as we look at today, you know, technology is an integrated tool containing, so whatever device I have, whether it's a computer, a tablet, something like a Chromebook, there's an expectation today that it contains all of these tools. We're not just using it for keyboarding. We're not just using it for that thing. You know, that happened a long time ago, and that was just the start, but here's the expectation. It needs to have web browsers and access to Wi-Fi. You know, I need to be able to access and download and install, you know, all kinds of applications and access what's out there. The technology you're buying and using should have built-in basic accessibility features because they're common to just about all the technologies out there today, such as text-to-speech, you know, voice recognition, switch access, and accessibility over and over again. Well, we're going to start using these devices. What are the accessibility features in them? You know, we've got a lot of students with special needs beyond just, you know, some basic access to the written text, you know, especially when we've got students that have language issues, students with learning disabilities, you know, on and on. We want to have easy connectivity with our devices to Bluetooth speakers, Bluetooth keyboards, you know, projectors, switches, all the other accessories that are out there. You know, if I said to you, hey, you know what, I can save you some money. Instead of buying that, you know, device you're going to get right now, buy this one instead. Well, can I use my Bluetooth headset with it? Well, no. How about connect some Bluetooth speakers so I can have some sound project over it? No, well, no, you can't use that with it. can I use a stylus? They don't really work with this device. If you like, what? Because we have an expectation that the device is becoming a little more generic, and we want it to work with pretty much anything we see out there. And we need to be able to incorporate files from multiple places. We need to be bringing in things from libraries, I use the example of Bookshare from Dropbox. I need to be able to go to WeVideo and work on some stuff. I want to go to Evernote, maybe send some notes. We're working with shared drives in the school system. These are the things that are going on in the employment environment. This is what's happening in the working world. There's an expectation of where we're storing our files, and we're sharing files with people all over the place, and we're getting resources from multiple areas. And so we want our students to do that, and we want our devices to be able to easily connect and do all this. So once all of those features became standard, the accessibility built into the devices, the ability to connect to Wi-Fi with pretty much everything we have, and all those other things, then technology became a tool for collaboration, because now we have the ability to do that. And when I say we have the ability, whether we're using it is another issue. But we have the ability for collaboration, which is one of the requirements of employees in a 21st century working environment. We have the ability to compile and collect information from a variety of sources. We're using our technology now to synthesize information. They're really easy tools to disseminate, collect, monitor classroom materials, such as assignments if I'm a teacher. No more put your assignment on my desk on the way out the door. Now we've got it where I can go and tell if the students even started working on it, and don't have to have it's Sunday night and my term paper is due tomorrow. I guess I better get going. Well, guess what? Teacher already knows that, because they don't see anything in the shared document that they have with the student. And now technology and the tools that we're using become device agnostic, meaning I could start a word processing program on an iPad in the classroom. I can go to and use an Android to open up the same file and continue working on it. I can go over to my friend's house and open it up on a Chromebook. And there's an expectation that it needs to be portable like that. It needs to cross platforms. And I need to be able to access it from a lot of different places, as opposed to the way it used to be, sitting in one computer in one room. Accessibility has really become portable now. When we think about accessibility years ago, we might have installed a special program on a computer just in this classroom. We're getting licenses for software that had to be installed only on a few computers, and if the computer was busy, well, accessibility becomes a wall at that point. And so now we find accessibility integrated into all the platforms. And I use the example here of switch access. We used to have switch access for students with physical disabilities only on computers. Now there's switch accessibility built into the iPad using a Bluetooth switch. With version 5 of Lollipop, the operating system for the Android now, switch access is built in. Works very similar to the way it does on an iPad. And I can use the same Bluetooth switch on both my iPad and an Android. And with the expectation being, I shouldn't have to buy 48 different devices. If it's Bluetooth, I should be able to use it with anything we've got. Text-to-speech is on everything now. Text-to-speech used to be very specialized. We had to buy programs to simply install it. Now there's an expectation of, or there should be, on the devices we're using, that it's really built in. And the voices have become much higher quality. Text-to-speech used to be, if you listen to Stephen Hawking with, the computerized voice that he still uses, as opposed to the new voices now, I can show you a text-to-speech voice that sounds like someone is actually reading, a human voice is actually reading it aloud to you. And all the devices now are very, very portable. Laptops, cell phones, tablets, everything can, they're really just tools. I kind of look at it the way I do pens and pencils and crayons and paints and everything else in the classroom. It's just another tool, and we're just going to pull it out when we need it and put it back when we don't. Here's an example of using tools that were typically used in business. Now we're using them in education. Matter of fact, I'm sure some of you right now are using what's referred to as a classroom backchannel program if you're using the group chat. A really good one that I really like is called Padlet. Now, with Padlet, think of it as an electronic wall where you can either use it to post class notes, and all the students can visually see this on any device that they have. Someone could be sitting on a Chromebook. Someone could be looking at it on an iPad. You could have a laptop in front of you. You could have an Android. It doesn't really matter. It runs on every platform, which is what we want. And we want students to look at the device as just, I need a device to access it, as opposed to, I need to be sitting in front of the best and nicest and shiniest one, so to speak. And so as a teacher, I can use this in a collaborative way if I want to allow my students to post to it all during the class. And with Padlet, a student or teacher, depending on how the teacher has set the wall up, I can upload a picture onto it on the fly. I can upload a video onto it. I can upload a file, for example. Here are the notes that I'm typing in as I teach my class. Here's what's going on in the class. Here's some images. Here's some other files. And guess what? I'm also going to attach a worksheet. So when you go home tonight, you'll be able to open up this Padlet wall, and you'll be able to open up the worksheet and download it and work on it. Now, I can make it interactive with all the students can do that. So if you start to think about teaching them how to work in a collaborative environment, it doesn't matter what device they happen to be sitting with right now. I'm using that instead of the Blackboard. Why? Because it's capturing everything in one centrally located place, which was the Padlet wall, which is really online. I start to post up some notes in there, and then my students can post comments that I can either leave or delete out. I can ask the students, well, let's go find some resources. Let someone go find a map on this area. Someone else go get a couple pictures from here. Someone else get me some stats. And then collaboratively, they can all be posting them, and everybody is seeing the results of it, and everybody's learning from it. And then afterwards, we all have this to go back and refer to. So 21st century learning is really about pedagogy. You know, how are we using these tools? You know, when it comes to teaching, you have an array of strategies for teaching, and you use a variety of them in the classroom because everybody learns differently. Students have different learning styles. Well, we want to have the same array of tools to use in the classroom also, whether it's hardware and software tools, because the students want to grab the appropriate tool to add to whatever they're working on. So it's about collaborating in the learning process. It's beyond the classroom and bells. You know, learning doesn't take place in 42 minutes from 9:02 to 9:58 when the bell rings, so to speak. You know, that collaboration continues after school with the students. Students need to be connected, and we do too, beyond the school walls. And especially when it comes to things like posting your class notes, well, the students need to be able to access those from anywhere outside of the school. We're talking about utilizing resources from everywhere and utilizing resources immediately and fluidly. The example is Padlet. You know, everything's happening in the moment, So, using those classroom resources, like I just kind of reviewed, for student learning, communication, for them to make sense of the information, to get feedback from you, to help them organize all the information that's in front of them, and to teach them critical thinking and how to work with all these tools. So with all these tools at the disposal, teachers tend to look at it one way, and students tend to, I think, look at it this way. The student approach is looking at a box of Legos. I'm looking at all the pieces, whether it's iPads, apps, software, Android devices, document cameras, computers. All of these are really just tools, and I'm just looking at the pieces in the box. What can I create with them? Excuse me. What can I create with them? How can they be utilized to build something? What tool am I going to use to go and pull something down from the web? What tool am I going to use to put it together and allow me to do some narration? What tool am I going to use maybe to record some video to really, show you what I've learned and to capture something that I want to show to others? And it doesn't have to happen on the tool that I have in my hand. I might reach for an Android because that has a better camera. I may be dumping my information online so I can go to the computer and assemble it. Kids look at everything as just tools. They're all just tools. We tend to look at, an iPad is, a one-trick pony. This is, used for this. This is used for that, as opposed to, well, here's all the tools at our disposal. What is it you need to accomplish right now? Grab the appropriate tool. Now, if I'm working for a company, the expectation would be, well, what are you doing? Spending your entire day on one tool? No. I'm using different tools, whether they're software tools, different hardware tools, different tools to allow me to assemble the pieces for what I'm either creating. And I think it's really easy for kids to just see it that way, and that's the way I approach it. I look at everything and I go, can I connect this to that? Well, can I use that to get this into here? In the classroom, we don't want to limit the tools. We don't want to. Matter of fact, when I worked in a school, I tried to make sure it was a very mixed environment. We had Macs, we had PCs, we had digital cameras, we had lots of tools, and I wanted the students to see everything as just a tool. Students need to have diverse tools to get used to working with with diverse tools. They need to have diverse supports for accessibility. An example is Kurzweil 3000 Firefly. So Firefly runs on just about every platform. Well, it does run on every platform. And even on the Android, even though they don't have an app, I can show you how to run it on an Android in the right browser. Well, what Kurzweil does, I import the text document from anywhere. I can grab it. I can go to Bookshare. I can open up a PDF file. I can open a text file. I can open up an RTF file. I can open up a Word document, on and on. But the point being, I bring in my document. It's going to read the text aloud to me. It'll highlight word by word if I need it. It'll give me the definition of a selected word. It'll read the definition if I need it read aloud. If I need it translated to a different language, it'll do that. If I need it read aloud in a different language, it'll do that. It allows me to zoom in on the page if I have a visual impairment. I can import files from a variety of sources. I can use the highlighters to extract the text in a document because I want to use it to create some bulleted points, so I want to bring it somewhere else. I can highlight the new vocabulary I don't understand. It will create a vocabulary study guide, in a sense, like a personal dictionary for me. I can add voice. I can record my own voice directly to a document, and that's my own recorded voice for, to answer a test, to, put some audio notes in there for myself or for someone else. I can add text notes and bubble notes right on the page. Maybe instead of a dictionary lookup definition, I don't understand it and I want a picture lookup. Give me, bring up a picture representing the word that I just selected. Here's an example of working with tools and having a lot of different tools and having that, the attitude that I have of, let's just look at everything we have and an expectation of I should be able to connect everything to everything. This was something that was very traditional. We've got, for example, Kurzweil 3000 installed on a computer in a classroom with a scanner connected to it. Well, I've got something I need access to. I need to go over to the scanner. I need to put my book on the scanner or the article on the scanner or the worksheet, whatever it may be, scan it into the program. Well, I have to go to the scanner. Okay, where's the scanner? Oh, it's down the hall. It's in another room. Oh, I can't get in there right now. I've got a scanner, that they gave me, but there's no driver installed on this computer. I can't use it. Where's the plug? What happened to the cable to connect the scanner? They moved the table that it was sitting on. Now it's just sitting on the floor, and everything was controlled by the teacher. Bring the paper over. I will do everything. Time needed to be scheduled to do it. And now, when I think of something like that, it just makes no sense at all to me, because I go, well, how is that going to work in a modern environment? Well, here's a different approach, and I've got a couple different examples here. I could use my iPad, my iPhone, or iPod to do this. A really inexpensive app, $4 or $5 app, such as Prismo, I can take a picture of, let's use an example of my worksheet. I can take a picture of my worksheet with this app, save it as a PDF with the app. I can use another app called Printer Pro, for example, and there are other apps like this. And what Printer Pro allows me to do is do a virtual print, electronic print, to my computer if they're on the same Wi-Fi network. So I take a snapshot of my worksheet, save it as PDF. I'm going to use Printer Pro to send it to my computer right into Kurzweil. It opens up in Kurzweil, and of course now you know what I'm doing in Kurzweil with it. What do I need it to do? Read it to me, highlight word by word, look up a definition of something, allow me to type on it, answer my questions. We're not even looking around for a scanner now. I've got a scanner in my pocket. I've got a scanner sitting right next to me. The scanner, let me borrow your scanner, meaning let me borrow your iPad, and all I need to do is have some of these apps installed. Remember the issues of some of the past slides? Everything locked in, as opposed to viewing everything as being portable and getting the idea out that we want to use a multitude of tools, and we want to just grab the technology and use it when we need it right now. Well, I can do that when I do something like this, and I can do that when I look at it this way. There are a lot of virtual printers out there for the iPad, and they have virtual printers for other platforms also. So Printer Pro and Print and Share are just two for the iPad. You just go get them on the App Store. Something gets installed on your computer. And then via Wi-Fi, you're just sending a file from your device, your iPad, for example, or your iPhone, whatever, to your computer, and then into the program. Well, that's how everything is in the working world. We want to move files around. We want students to realize, take ownership of what is it you need to have done right now, and here are tools to do it, instead of waiting and having to go to a specific room. The way it looks with virtual printers, here's a screenshot from my iPad. I went to print out of an app. It allows me to print to any printer my computer can print to. For example, on my computer, I can save a file as a PDF. Okay? So I could do that. I can access the KESI virtual printer. That's the Kurzweil virtual printer, which allows me to take a document from Microsoft Word or somewhere else and move it directly into Kurzweil. Well, if I could do that with my iPad, just lean over, or my pod or something like that, snap an image of a magazine article, I can, send it right into Kurzweil from there. And we'll take a look at what happens from there. On a Chromebook, schools getting Chromebooks. I'm assuming, and this is the way I look at everything, I'm assuming that I should be able to, if we're going to work with Chromebooks, I want to be able to work with things on the fly. I want to take some of the tools that I had before. I want to integrate them into the tools I'm using now. And here I'm using Kurzweil as an example. So I'm going to grab a Chromebook off the rack. I'm going to take a HoverCam T3. It's a really inexpensive document camera. I use it. Matter of fact, I travel with it. That's how much I like it. It's a $200 document camera. Some of the issues before was, well, you needed to install the driver. With the new technology coming out, where do you think the companies are going? Oh, well, that doesn't make sense anymore. Let's put the driver online. So I plug in my HoverCam into the Chromebook. I go online and I launch the HoverCam software, HoverCam Flex, from their website, because instead of installing the software, I just go to their website and I launch it and I run it there. So now in a Chromebook, I've got my document camera plugged into my Chromebook. The software, because you can't install the driver on a Chromebook, it's being run virtually online from their website. I put my book underneath the document camera. I snap a picture of the page. In the software, the HoverCam software, I save it as a PDF. And then I launch Firefly by Kurzweil. And from Firefly, I simply go and open the file that is sitting on the Chromebook right now and bring it directly into Firefly. And it auto-saves it once I do. And now I'm having it read aloud to me. All this is happening on the fly. I reach over, I grab the document camera, I grab a Chromebook off the rack, I plug the document camera in, I go to the HoverCam website, I launch their software to run the camera, slap my book underneath the document camera, take a snapshot of it, save it as a PDF. Now I've got it open in Firefly, and I've done that myself as a student. And now that's there, I'm going to go home and I'm going to open it up on my iPad, and there's my reading assignment for tonight. Think about working with the tools. So where did it go? It saved it in the Universal Library in Firefly. Files are accessible from Firefly on any device with an internet connection from anywhere. I could go to Disney World, go to a computer that's free, Firefly by Kurzweil.com, log into my account, and there are my files. I can upload files from anywhere. All I have to do is go to a device, log in, choose Upload File, and there we go. Files are accessible from any computer with an internet connection, from a Chromebook. They're accessible from iPad with the app, from anywhere. Teachers can interact with student files. They can provide comments, supports. They can track progress. They can even track whether the student's using the program or not. So with Kurzweil and Firefly, all within one program, I've got all these layers upon layers of customized accessibility that I can customize to my individual needs. And it's portable. One of the requirements of the 21st century tools, correct? I can just grab a device, and now I have access to it. It's customizable and flexible. I can import, I can access, and I can communicate my understanding using all the tools in there. With Firefly, I can work with common file formats. The example here is the image on the upper left. I'm downloading something from my Google Drive account. In the lower right, here are all the supported files I can import into Firefly. So when it comes to access to the content, where do you need to start? Do you simply need to bring in content and have it read aloud? Do you need to bring in the content and convert it to a different language? Think of all your ESL students out there. What kind of supports do you need? Do you need to have a definition lookup and then read it aloud to me? Or do you want a picture lookup instead of a definition of the exact same word? Show me a symbol or a picture representing the word to help me understand what the word actually is. What kind of supports do you need? Do you need the page zoomed? So I don't need screen magnifiers. It's all built in. You know, we're talking about a program with all of these layers of accessibility built in. You choose the tool you need. Critical thinking, one of the requirements of a 21st century learner. Well, here are an array of tools within Kurzweil: brainstorming tools, outlining tools, the ability to record my own voice, supports, checklists for my, to help me with the writing process. What kind of supports do you need in the writing process? Do you need word prediction? Do you want floating word lists? Do you want a customized dictionary? Do you want a talking spell checker? Think of a typical spell checker. We tend to rely on the computer must know, and what happens when students first start using spell checkers, always choosing the first word in the list because I didn't know how to spell it. And so sometimes the writing became a little more bizarre than we thought it would be when spell checkers came out. And so now, instead of just plain old spell check, click on all the choices and hear it read aloud, because students typically know what they want to spell. They just don't know how to spell it. And so hearing the choices. Highlighting for visual support, highlighting and then extracting out the text. Could be a 38-page article on black holes or something we're studying for science. I can create my own study guides. Of course, we used to do this with highlighters on a textbook. I wish we could have just clicked the button and extract those out when we were in college, and allow me to, to study for the exams. Well, this is one of the tools that we can use in Kurzweil. We've got highlighters in Firefly. We have highlighters in the installed program. What do you want to do with the highlighters? Extract text, create study guides. Do you want to extract words and have it create a dictionary for you? So once again, I'm coming round and round and round back to accessibility. Accessibility, we need to stop assuming it's on a one-to-one needs basis. Does John have an issue, reading disability? Well, what are we going to do about John? Well, guess what? I'll bet John is not the only student in the class, in the school, that has a reading disability. For whatever the reason is, there's a lot of students out there. If English is not my primary language, I'm going to have an issue with access to the content. Does not mean I'm not smart. It just means I need, access to the content. And it shouldn't be on a one-to-one needs basis. Remember that whole idea of, in a sense, like universal design for learning. The accessibility is built in everywhere we go. We just need to start utilizing it. We need to understand that it's part of all of the emerging technologies. There's text-to-speech, there's high-quality voices on all the platforms we're using now. It needs to be able to be utilized across many environments. We can't just, it doesn't, we don't have text-to-speech on the Chromebook. We have to go and use the iPad if you need that. We're expecting accessibility to be on whatever we grab, and it should be. And we should be setting it up and customizing it as a first step so the students know whatever I grab, here's where you turn it on. Here's where you customize it. Here's where you make your changes. The assumption is the accessibility is there. Go get at it. Go customize it for your own individual needs. Firefly, for example, it's portable because it's accessible on all platforms. There's that student-teacher connection for collaboration because as a teacher, I can drag and drop a file into the student's folder. They can access that file from anywhere, simply logging into Firefly on any device. I can see what the student's working on. I can collect their work right from their folder instead of having them print and hand in anything. And we have all those customizable accessibility features with text-to-speech and language and vocabulary and visual supports. And from Chromebooks or computers, I can import content directly into the program. That universal library is central online. Educators can connect to students' work. Students can stay connected to their work. So the oh, I left it in my locker, kind of falls by the wayside, because as an educator, I can drag and drop an assignment into a folder where all my students can access it. They can all open it up and save it into their own folders, working with shared folders. I can go and type comments in their work. They can open up, see the comments that I've added, and continue working. They can access their work, their reading assignments from anywhere. It could be simply used as, here's the writing assignment for tonight. And wherever they happen to be, public library, log into Firefly, and there it is. Grab an iPad, log into Firefly, and there it is. Got a Chromebook sitting here, log into Firefly, there it is. So Kurzweil and Firefly, they share the same universal library, just accessing it from different apps, so to speak. It's integrated with with writing tools, study skills, tools for test taking. We've got all those accessibility features, including customizing your text-to-speech, different voices, how fast do you want it to be read, the visual supports in it, and then the ability to embed supports into traditional reading materials, such as adding a bubble note to Tale of Two Cities. I've done a lot with colleges with this, how we're going to take, this is the book that the student's going to be reading. Here's how the professor can embed all kinds of comments and pop-up notes and embedded supports right within the materials that the students are going to be reading. So how do these tools fit in today's toolbox? How does Firefly and Kurzweil fit into today's toolbox? Portability, it's in the cloud. Accessible by all platforms. You can work with printed or electronic materials, and think about that printed material. Traditionally, we'd have to take that printed material and go somewhere and do something to it. Go to a scanner, a teacher's station, put it on there, and now look at the tools differently. I can just, whip my iPhone out, click, and then move it up into the program. It works with multiple file formats. I can get materials in via a lot of different ways. I can scan, I can open, I can copy and paste, I can virtual print, and I can utilize other programs and devices in conjunction with it. The example was, I talked about using an iPad with it, HarperCam T3 document camera, and grabbing resources from other places. And more important, it's about the student. It supports student learning through accessibility, portability, the connection with the teacher, and all of those inclusive tools. Remember, everything that I've been talking about today, it's all about the student. It's not about us. Some of the issues we have are, for example, replacing some of the tools that we're using with, I need, how does an iPad work? And now a student has an Android, and oh my God, Magic Slate, this is something radically new. I wonder how that works, as opposed to the assumption that, all right, well, there must be text-to-speech in there. I'll bet they can do writing on that. I'll bet they can take pictures. I'll bet they can incorporate this into it. Because, you can do that on pretty much everything nowadays. When I first got, for example, Chromebook, the first time I ordered a Chromebook, do you think I was thinking, I need a workshop on how this thing works? No, I had a lot of assumptions when I ordered it. All right, I'm assuming I can connect to the cloud. I'm assuming I can do this, and I'm assuming I can do that. I'm assuming I could take some of the devices I have and work with it. And, people are like, oh, well, Dan, you can't install a software driver on it. It's like, you know what, though? I got my Chromebook. I took out my HarperCam T3 off my shelf here. I plugged it in. I said, look at this. There's an app on the Chrome store called Webcam Toy. It allows me to plug in some other webcam into my Chromebook and use it instead. And golly gee, so did my document camera. So I approach things as, oh, we can make this work, and I'm assuming we can do a lot of these things, as opposed to, oh, no, what are we going to do with that now? Because, remember, it's about the kids. It's about getting the tools in their hand. It's about them working with a variety of tools. It's about them problem solving with a variety of tools. What if I said to the students, well, here, you need to put a report together on these devices I have here, and you've got a Chromebook, and here's what I've got. The student might look and go, hey, can I take pictures with that thing? Yeah. Can I plug it into that thing? Well, go ahead and try it. Yep. Oh, well, then all I have to do is, and so once again, it's like working with the Legos all over again. Oh, then I need one of these, and I want to grab this, and I'm going to take pictures of that, I'm going to bring it to here, I'm going to put it into this program, then I'm going to go over to that device over there, and when I go home, I'm going to pull it into another thing, and add some music to it, and it's working with all the tools. And it's about the student, like I said. Accessibility for the student, tools for the student using the tools, the student collaborating, modeling collaboration through shared documents and folders. Here's how collaboration works. And I'm going to stop here. I took you through a little bit of Kurzweil and some of the tools that Kurzweil does, the tools that Firefly. You might look at Firefly as Kurzweil Lite, because I do not have to install anything for Firefly to work. I just grab a device, I go on the internet, and I just go to it. It's completely web-based. And all the tools that I talked about here of moving files in the toolbox of 21st century tools, and the whole focus is accessibility, access to the information, and now tools to allow me to show you what I've learned. How am I going to do that? I'm visual. I'm going to use the brainstorming tools and put together my ideas there. Very ordered and linear. I'm going to open up the outlining tools and have it help me put together a really good outline. I'm going to grab some information with the highlighters and pull it into an outline, and then I'm going to work from there. I'm going to, and I could, point being, you go on and on. Here's a program. What device do I want to run it on? Where can I utilize it on? And it fits well in a 21st century toolbox. So I'm going to end and open up the floor for questions. I know people will have specific questions after that will require a little more extensive answer. So if you have something that is going to take a little time, you can email me on anything I've discussed here. Here's my email address, dhurley@juno.com. You can email Deb from Kurzweil, and there's her email address on specific questions on Kurzweil, Firefly, setting up within your school system. Can I get a trial version of this? How can we set up something, for how this works? And she can answer any of the questions from the company's perspective. So, Deb or Andrew, do we have any other questions out there that we had you were collecting during the session?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Dan, for sharing those insights. And we do have some questions for you. We have a few minutes left. But coming back to, if people wanted to get a sort of a trial of the Kurzweil 3000 Firefly, can they get a trial version of that? And how's that all put together?
I'll answer that question.
Go ahead, Deb.
If you don't mind, Dan, I'll answer the question
Sure.
for you. This is Debbie. Yes, you can get you can download a trial from our website, and the website is www.kurzweil, KURZWEILEDU.com. And there is a way to either contact somebody in our sales department who can help you set up a trial, or you can download a trial yourself.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, Dan, I wanted to just come back to the Universal Library that you touched on earlier, and you talked a lot about collaboration and also about how students could put their files in the Universal Library and teachers could comment on them. Is there a way within the Universal Library to segment everything into groups? So if a group is collaborating, they can see those files, but if it's individual work, they can't see it. Other students can't see it. How is that all put together, and how can it be segmented?
Do you want to talk about that, Deb, or do you want me to give a quick answer on how it's laid out?
Why don't you give a quick answer, Dan?
Okay. The quick way, and this is really evolving pretty quickly based on school and the needs of what they want to do. Right now, the nice thing is students do not see other students. Everybody has their own personalized folders up in the cloud there. Teacher can see everybody. So as a teacher, I can create a shared folder that the entire class can open up. But it helps keep student work separate. So so what will happen is, as a teacher, I've got a shared folder. All my students can see that folder. They can go there. They can open up anything I put in. I can go into any of the students' folders and access things, but right now there isn't a way or platform for a collaborative folder where multiple students can access and share files within that environment.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that for me. And there was one other question I had, which was Kurzweil 3000 and Kurzweil 3000 Firefly. Are they can educators get these as separate products, or are they is one a subset of the other? Can you explain it? Maybe this is better for Debbie. Is this something where you get the Kurzweil 3000 and the Firefly as an adjunct, or are they standalone products at this point?
Kurzweil 3000 and Firefly work together as an ecosystem, and so they are not available separately. However, we do have a standalone version of Kurzweil 3000 for those students for those individuals who may not have access to an internet connection. But for the most part, the Kurzweil 3000 and Firefly ecosystem works together in unison. They're all connected using the Universal Library, but they are not available separately at this point.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
And of course, the interesting thing is,
Dan, keep going.
Oh, I was going to say the interesting thing is, because Deb kind of mentioned the internet. If you have some student living out in some rural area with no internet connection, and they put the installed version on, as soon as they had access to the internet, they could log into a Firefly account and then upload files into it from their computer, and then now they're gone into a web version. So there's a couple different flavors, I guess, if you want to call it, of Kurzweil and Firefly to fit a lot of different occasions.
Okay, all right. Now, we probably have time for maybe two questions more, but you did mention, and I think you did have a slide at some point talking about the kinds of files that Kurzweil 3000 Firefly supports. Can you just talk a little bit more about what files it does support, and how you go about and find the digital, how educators go out and find the digital content that they would be able to pull back into the Kurzweil product?
Yes, here I pulled up the slide. These are the file formats that it can deal with right now. The KESI file is if you used Kurzweil to do some writing, because you can simply open it up and do some writing with it. This is one of the file formats that you can save it as. But you can save it as, like I said, a Microsoft Word document, a Word 2000, a PDF file. DAISY are the file formats like Books for the Blind. Those, to give you an example, you might think of, and EPUB. The EPUB is the standard ebook file format that we can bring things into. So a lot of different file formats. And then how do we get it in? I can simply, if I were in Firefly, I could just choose import from my computer and go get the file if it's on my computer. If it's in Dropbox, I can simply download it and then import it into Firefly. I can copy and paste information into, Kurzweil. I can what's called virtual printing from Microsoft Word as a teacher. Here's my worksheets, and send it, directly in. you can use a scanner. I've got something I need to move into the program. It's print material right now. I want to make it electronic, slap it on a scanner. And that's where I talked about using my document camera and then some of these virtual scanners, if you want to call it, on like an iPad, where I've taken my iPad and I'm using a program, an app like Prismo, which allows me to take a picture of printed material. It runs OCR on it, and then I'm going to take it from there and send it into here virtually from my iPad. And so I can bring files in from just about anywhere. It's kind of where am I going to go get it from? And those are the kind of file formats I can bring in.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for clarifying that. And that, believe it or not, is all the time that we have left for today. If you have further questions for Dan or for Debbie, please just email them at the addresses up on the screen right there. And but as we wrap up today, I want to thank Dan again for an excellent presentation, and also I'd like to thank Kurzweil Education for its support. Now, we will be sending out an email to everyone who attended today, which will go out in a couple of days, and will contain a link to the recording of the webinar, and you'll also be able to download the presentation if you wish. So thank you so much for attending, and this concludes today's webcast. Goodbye.